Hello, Mr. Wright here. Wanted to show you a few quick things for my beginning trumpet players on how to hold the trumpet, how to oil the valves, and maybe how to lubricate the tuning slides. So first of all, the way you hold a trumpet is with your left hand. You just basically going to grab the valves. And I put my ring finger into the ring of the third valve slide, and I've got to lubricate this, and this is hard to move. But I need to be able to, as I press this down, to be able to move this, because there's certain notes like a low D where that tuning, this third valve slide has to be out about almost 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to push it back in right now, and but you'd hold the trumpet like that with your left hand, and notice how my fingers, these three fingers are coming through there, my pinky's resting out there, thumb's right here, so I can support the entire weight of the trumpet that way. And the way I'll take my right hand is your hand's going to be like this, and your pinky's just under that little ring right there, and my thumb is right here. A lot of students tend to take their thumb and bring it way up here, and then their fingers are doing like this. Not good. You want to back your hand out, thumb's just under the lead pipe. This little pipe right here is the lead pipe, and then the pinky right here, so that the cushiony part of your fingers is hitting the valves, and you will push the valves straight down, not at an angle when you use your fingers this way, because that will push the valves to where they're grinding into the side of the valve casing. And but that's how you want to hold the trumpet, and you want to have it slightly angled down from you. And this is another trumpet. My mouthpiece is not here, so sorry. But you would hold it like that, and the way you'd hold your lips when you play is like, say you burn your hand, you want your lips up against your teeth, and your lips and teeth will be spread apart about that far. You don't want to mash your lips together. You want to have it open so those lips will be free to vibrate with inside the mouthpiece. But you would just hold it like so, straight up. And when you lay the trumpet down on your lap, you lay it with the bell facing towards the right and the mouthpiece to the left, and you keep your hands on it. Whenever you lay the trumpet down, you want to lay it down with this little middle valve tubing coming out here, pointing straight up. Because if you lay it on that, it'll put pressure on that and bend this valve casing right here, and it'll cause this middle valve to start sticking. Similarly, if you bring your trumpet down, say you're sitting on a hard plastic chair or a wooden chair, and you bring your trumpet down hard, which you don't want to do, you could hit this third valve slide, and it will also bend the valve casing here. So you always want to have your trumpet up on your knee, or you want to lay it on your lap with your hands on it to protect it. And be careful that people are not walking by and maybe hitting this bell. You want to kind of keep it safe. And if you're ever walking around, you don't just carry the trumpet just walking like this. You're going to keep it up to your chest and carry it like a baby and protect it. But let's talk about oiling the valves. You only want to oil one valve at a time so that you don't get them stuck accidentally into the wrong valve casing. So we're going to do just the first one, and I'm not going to do all three. I'm just going to do one to show you what we do. I took off this valve cap right here. I just turned it counterclockwise, took it off there. And then I'm going to take just an old t-shirt or a handkerchief, and I'm going to wipe off this part right there that meets the inside of the valve casing. And I'm going to use a little bit of valve oil on there, and I'm going to put just a little bead of oil on it. It doesn't take much, just enough to cover it. And you never want it to be like dripping off. You don't need that much. Too much will actually cause it to stick. So I'm going to take it, and I'm going to use my thumb to rub that valve oil across the whole surface there like butter on corn on the cob. Wipe your finger off, and then I'm going to set that valve right back down inside. And on the inside, there's a little groove about an inch down inside the valve casing, and there's a little Teflon valve guide that will help you to lock the valve into the correct position so that the holes in the valve meet up with the tubing here that leads from the valve. So there's a Teflon. One side is narrow. This is the narrow side, and this is the wide side. And you never want to let this to come unscrewed. You want to keep this tightened down. If it starts to feel like it's coming undone, you want to keep that nice and tight, because this whole thing will come apart, and you don't want that. If it doesn't come apart, ask your band director to help you put it back together. But I'm going to take the narrow side of this valve guide, not the wide side, but the narrower one, and I'm going to have that facing towards me or pointing in the same direction as this little tubing right here. So I'm going to set it in there because it'll match up to the inside, and I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to press down and turn it until it locks into the little groove that's just about right in there. So I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to turn it clockwise to where it clicks into that little groove. Listen to this. Maybe you heard that. And I'm going to hold my finger down and hold that valve down so it stays there. And then I'm going to carefully start to tighten the valve cap down. Now, sometimes if it's not square on, you can turn it opposite way to like left, and then till you hear it pop back. And then once it pops back and it's onto the threads again, then you go back forward, and you know it's going to sit on there nice and even. I'll show you that again. Like for instance, it's off, and say I don't want to force it on the wrong way, but the one way to find the right threading or the threads is there. You see it landed, it went beyond the threads, and it clicked down into it, so now I can go straight forward, and I'll be sure that it will go properly onto the threads. And you never want to force that, because if you strip the threading out, that's really bad. It's very costly to repair. So you do that, you just repeat the process for these other valves. Now, there's these tuning slides also have to be lubricated. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, but you don't use valve oil for that. It's something that needs to be a little bit more thick, tuning slide grease, and you pull this out. And of course, when you pull these tuning slides out for the third valve slide and for this main tuning slide, you want the valve, the water key, to be at the lowest part. And when you empty it out, of course, that needs to be the lowest part of gravity, so it'll pull right out when you empty it out. But I'm just going to wipe it off again, wipe off the old stuff, and just use some tuning slide grease on there. Doesn't take much. You don't want it to be all gumped up. A little bit there. I think that should be enough for both slides. So I'm going to take a little bit here, a little bit there, rub it on there with my fingers, make sure it's uniformly coated on each one. And this is a nice protective coating that'll keep it from rust to forming. And I put one slide in. Some of them are made this way to where you have one tubing's longer than the other, so you can get one started, and then you match up the next one. Some of them, they both are the same length, it doesn't matter. And you just put that on there, and you kind of want to work it back and forth to get the grease on there. And then, after you finish playing, by the way, you want to wipe off the whole trumpet. My hands, this is an old used trumpet, but you never want to take your hands and touch the bell. You never need to do that. On my nice trumpet, I've never actually touched the bell with my hands. I've always wiped it off with a cloth. Sometimes condensation will drip out. Now, the water keys right here, some people call it, in the back of the day, used to call these spit valves, but not even much spit even gets inside the mouthpiece. It's condensation. Condensation, when your warm, moist air that's got moisture in it blows through this cold tubing, the moisture from your breath collects on the inside of the tubing, and it kind of goes to the low, and it sinks down because of gravity to the lowest points. So you just empty out your water key that way. You blow air, put your lips to the outside of the mouthpiece, and just empty it out, and it'll come out. It's just condensed water mixed with a little bit of grease and tuning slide and valve oil. So, but that's that. And when you finish, you just lay your instrument back in the case, wipe it off real good, and the finish on it will last for many, many years. So I hope that's helpful in knowing how to lubricate the trumpet. Do that, and also all of your slides, move them once a day, and that'll keep them from rusting in place. And do the same thing. One last little tip is you got valve caps at the bottom as well. To keep them from rusting is you take a little bit of tuning slide grease, just a little bit, and a little bit more than that. Let's see. And rub it in there like so. You can almost do it on one side, because once you start to twist it around, it'll work its way around. And I'm going to back it up. I'm going to go backwards first until it clicks into place, until I find a thread. There it goes. And it's going to sit on there nice and evenly without stripping out the threads. So you want to move every moving part on the trumpet every single day, and then you'll never have it one day like, my tuning slide's stuck. You don't want that. That's very frustrating, especially if you're in the warm-up room about to play a band festival or something, and everybody goes into a panic, which has happened to me before. So, but make sure that you move it all and take care of it, and this instrument will last you a lifetime.